Welcome to our quick start guide of working with Xata. So far we've created a database. We've built a Next.js app, a full CRUD create, read, update, delete app that is a to-do app that works with Xata. This is part of a series. If you have just joined us, I'd recommend going and looking at the earlier videos. There's a link to the first one up here. It's also part of a playlist, so hope you find your way. If you want to just jump in here, that's cool too, I guess. We have this app here. Let me show you. So we have this app. That's a to-do list. I can say I just ate food. I can, add go to the gym, for example, and check that. So it works. I can even delete stuff. It's fully CRUD. But what if we want to have it serve multiple users instead of like just me? How can we do that? And then how can we authenticate these users? That's what we look at here. And we'll see how far we go. So we're going to use basic authentication just because this is a basic MVP to give us a gist of how we would do that. To start with, we need another table for users. And we've already learned how to make a table in the web UI. Let's do that now with the CLI. So if we go to the CLI, we'll run Xata schema edit. And what we'll do is we'll add a table. The name of the table is users. The description is table of users. Let's add a column. Users have a username, which is a string type, a user's unique name, and a password, which is also a string type. Never store plain text, though. Always hash the password. Okay, so we have this, and what we'll do is we'll go down and choose run migration, and that just means save this. And we'll say, yes, I do. And it's going to create the table for us, and it's done. And it will also now code generate a new version, which is quite handy. If we come here, we see in the web UI, okay, cool, it exists exactly as I want. So now we have a table of users. How do we associate a to-do item with a user? We'll add a column here of type link. In fact, you know what? We can do this in the web UI. We can do this in the CLI, or we could do this in the Visual Studio Code extent. Yeah, we can work with our database without even like leaving the editor. That's where we are in terms of developer experience. Okay, so let's go here. To do app, I have items and users. I want to go to items and add a column of type link. Which table to link? I want to link the users table, and the name of my column now is user. So it did. I ignore that. It's private beta stuff, but it did. And we have a link. If we come here, that's the wrong window. You just got a behind the scenes look. You're welcome. I'm not even going to remove it because it's a private beta. Okay, so we have this column now, user, and you'll notice it's exploded with the other columns from the users table. We can condense that. We can say, I don't care about the ID. I just want to see the username. We can do that. And now let's associate some of this stuff. So I want to associate these with me. Click on this edit button and choose a user from here. Of course, users don't exist. So now comes the problem. How do we create a user? How do we log a user in? To do that, let's add some basic auth to our Next.js app. Let's look at the laptop here. So we have this one page index. You can do this, by the way, with Next.js middleware, but since we're just really you know what? I tried to come up with an excuse. Honestly, I feel like doing it this way without middleware right now. But if you want to use middleware, totally cool. We build how we're comfortable, So anyway, let's do it without middleware. So get server-side props. This is of type get server-side props. And so now I have a context with rec and res. And that's what we'll use. So actually, instead of doing that, let's do a different thing. Let's write a reusable function. I think I have this is fine. Is everything cool, TypeScript? You all right? Need some help? Of course. This video is going exactly the way I wanted to. Okay, so now let's go back to the file tree, and what we're going to do is let's make a util called authorize.ts, and we'll export const authorize, and we'll use this everywhere we need to authorize. So it's an async function for sure that gets the request, which is an incoming message type. This is just Next.js types, and a response, which is a server response. Okay, these are types that are just Node.js standard, as you can see. Wow. Okay. Let's just let Copilot write this whole thing. So if there's no authorization header, do that. I agree. Um, Actually, we won't deal with the response at all. We'll leave that to the other middleware. We'll just return true or false. What does this return? That's a good question. It returns a promise of our auth response. What is that? Let's define a type. I really want a username, and I want to know is authenticated, if this is true or false. So it's a Boolean. Okay, and that's what we want to return. So if now there's no authorization header, well then tough luck, you're just not authenticated. Okay, that's one thing done. Username is going to be optional, I guess. Next thing. So the token is split by space because the token is the authorization header usually is something like this exactly. So we just want this. Split by space, good. But it's not a bearer token, it's a basic one. And this is usually something like this that is base 64 encoded. That's how basic auth works. So how do we decode that now? We get the token, or in this case it's credentials. But what we want is a username and a password. And for that, what we'll do is wow, exactly. So we're taking the base 64 string, we're turning it into a buffer, and then we're stringifying it into a UTF-8 string, which is basically this, and we're splitting by colon, which will give us a username and a password, a 2-index array or a tuple. Good, and so now we can work with the username and the password. What do we want to do? We want to probably compare passwords. So if, go away, Copilot, you failed. If passwords match, if the passwords don't match, then we need to return is authenticated false. And we actually have a username now in case somebody wants it. So that. Otherwise, if there is an authorization header and if the passwords match, then we return true and the username. But now, what is passwords match? Passwords match is we compare the incoming password with the user's password. How do we get the user's password? It's a great question. And also we need to handle the case where users don't exist. So let's do that. User doesn't exist. User exists. We have the password. Okay. So we'll say user.password. Boom. But now what is user? Const user is await Xata, get Xata client. Actually, let's just be nice about it. This is not awaitable. So we'll do this. Xata.db. Users.filter where username is username. Okay. .get first. That's what we want. Let's do that. This is, you can use this syntax, or we could just use object syntax and shorthand properties like this. Boom, that looks great. But now user.password may or may not exist because I didn't use await. Cool. It just knows users have passwords now. Look, that's so awesome. Fantastic. But what is compare? So never roll your own crypto. It's not a good idea. It's also not a good idea. It's not a good idea to store plain text passwords. We'll use a library called bcrypt that handles cryptography for us. It's open source. People have iterated. We'll use that. So let's segue npm install bcrypt. Npm I types bcrypt. Optional, just if you like TypeScript. Super. So now we can import bcrypt from bcrypt, just like that. And bcrypt exposes a callback-based API. I like promises, so I'm going to import Promisify from, it's just built into Node.js. It's quite nice. From util, just like that. And so I have a typo. So what we'll do is we'll say const compare is bcrypt.compare, and we'll Promisify it. And we'll do the same for hash, which we'll use to create the user. Okay, perfect. Good. So now, if the user doesn't exist, meaning if no user, then let's move this down. Then we'll create the user and then redirect to the homepage. But we'll handle the redirection later. We'll create the user. So we'll say await xata.db.users.create And the username is just the username. The password though is we'll await, it's a promise, we'll await hash, the incoming password, and salt rounds. It's just a cost factor. And the higher this is, usually the harder it is to brute force the password. Okay, so we'll do a cost factor of 10 and store that. And then when it's done, we'll return is authenticated, true, and the username is the username. Okay, what about if the user exists and we have the password? Then we just compare them. And if they don't match, you're not authenticated. If they do match, you're good, welcome. So this is cool. This looks like it works. How do we now use it? So let's go to our index page. And what we're going to do is get some stuff from authorize. So we'll await authorize, and we'll pass in rec. I think it's just rec. Yeah, it's just rec. We'll get rec from the context here, and we get is authenticated and username. So if you are authenticated, then you get the nice props. If you're not authenticated, what do? We get res here. We want to set a header that is going to tell the browser to ask you for your credentials. Okay, so we'll do that by running res.writeHead 401, which is unauthorized. And what we'll do is we'll set a header www authenticate, and we'll tell the browser exactly. We're using basic auth, and the realm is just a message that your browser will display. Why do you need to authenticate? So we'll say this is a private to-do list, something like that. Okay, and then we'll return. What should we return? Well, let's return a redirect where the destination is /. So we'll just come back to the same page. Destination is /, and it's not permanent. Okay, save. Looks good. Let's go back here. Reload. Okay, so it's asking us for a username and a password. If the user doesn't exist, we're going to create this. So I'll do Tejas. Password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. Save. That's it. I've logged in. Save. And we're good. I see stuff. And if I go here to users, I have Tejas and I have a nice, hard to brute force password. Fantastic. Now you might be thinking, why am I seeing to-dos that are not assigned to me? And that's because we need to filter here in the UI. So when we get items, we no longer get all the items, but we .filter where the item, see, we don't have types. So what we're going to do is we're going to run codegen again, because we made a column here. We made this link column from the VS Code extension. We need to update our codegen. So we'll do codegen, okay? And now we should be able to get some secret sauce. Maybe do this. Do we have the auto completion? Great. Or maybe the old way. Yeah, exactly. So we'll do user.username is username. Look at that. Fantastic. Save. Naturally, we're going to see we don't have anything. We can maybe assign some stuff to me. Make a quick start guide. That sounds like a Tejas thing. So we'll assign that to me right here. And now if I go here, I should be able to toggle it. Good. We have basic authentication, but if I create a new one, I need that to be assigned to me as well. So if I say hello panda, I'm not going to see this because it creates a new to-do, but it's unassigned. So let's quickly tie up the loose ends and call it. Okay. How do we go about that? Let's visit our API routes. That's where all the magic happens. So when you add a to-do, we first need to authorize. So await authorize. We'll give it rec is authenticated username. And again, if you're not authenticated, we'll just end the response here. .status is 401.end. We don't want any more trouble. Otherwise, do stuff here. Now we have a username. So what we can do is get the user ID and then put it in when we create. So we can create a to-do with user who has an ID, user.id. Oops, user.id. But we need to get the user ID first. So we'll say const user is the same thing, await. Okay, so we have two get Xata clients here now, so it's probably best to just do, be nice about it. Xata.db.users.filter on username, and we'll get the first one. Okay, cool. Look at that. So now we're getting just the users, or we're adding rather, we're getting the user ID and then we're adding a to-do with the ID. So we'll save this and we'll just repeat this with the other serverless functions. So now delete to-do, I'm literally just gonna copy stuff. This gets copied right here. Yes, I import you, don't worry. And now we delete by ID, but only if you're authenticated. This is actually fine. We don't have to do anything more here. And then to actually do the to-do, same thing. We'll authorize, right? And then actually we just need to authorize. Cool. This looks good. Let's check how this works. I like videos. Perfect. They are automatically assigned. This is great. And now just to make sure we're not leaking anything, let's incognito log in as Fabien0102. His password is Poppy. I don't know. Empty to-do list. Hello. Buy cheese. Drink wine. Okay, that looks good. Let's say he bought cheese. Okay, great. So I have mine. He has his. And what does the database show? Look at that. Assignees checks. Whoa, we've added authentication to this app. We've added a link column. Here, let me show you something. Now, if you go look at your schema up here, you should be able to look at that. You can see how a user links to this other users table. And it's just, that's the developer experience we're going for. I hope this has been helpful, adding basic auth to a service. You could do JWT auth, whatever you like. This should kind of just help you find orientation in this new serverless database we're trying to build. We like the developer experience. We hope you do. Let us know what you think. Join us on Discord or add us on Twitter at Xata or at Zeta. And hey, thanks again for watching. We're really happy to have you be a part of our community, and we're looking forward to see what you build with us. Until the next one. Peace.